All right, in this video, we're gonna go through positioning. And the real important piece here is defining your unique signature positioning. We call this your USP. This is a really critical exercise to go through because you wanna make sure everything you do is aimed the right way at the right person. Think of your USP like the total package that makes you one of one on social media. Your unique signature positioning is made up of three main buckets. The first one is your message. This is the what of your positioning, the what you talk about. The second one is your avatar. This is the for whom of your positioning. Who are you targeting? Who are you talking to? And the third one is your X factor. This is the in what way do you deliver the what to who? What do you talk about, for whom, in what way? That's what this is going to answer for you. Now, each bucket of these has a couple of things that are really helpful to define up front. I want you to write these down on a doc as we go through them so that you have this. You only have to do this one time, but if you make sure to do this clearly, it'll really define everything you do from here. Okay, so just a quick primer for the pieces in each bucket. For the message bucket, you've got four pieces. The first is your offer. What is your existing offer at the bottom of the funnel, and who exactly does it help with what? The second is your niche. This is the topic category that you operate in. This is more of like a categorical label for the niche in social media. So we'll go through this pretty easily. Interest topics is the third one, which is very important. What are the subtopics within your niche category that matter most to your core avatar? And then the last one is core messages and beliefs. What fundamental beliefs do you hold with respect to those interest topics as a core anchor for your messaging? This is where a lot of your like contrarian take or unique expertise is going to live in your core messaging and beliefs. Okay, so that's the first bucket. The second bucket is your avatar. And this consists of the ideal viewer avatar themselves, which is who is the specific type of person you serve, the type of person that would buy your products that you want to watch the videos. The second is that IVA's dream outcome. What is the dream outcome or goal that your IVA is trying to achieve? The third one is the IVA pain points. What are the specific core pain points or desires that your IVA struggles with that's preventing them from accomplishing that dream outcome? And then the last thing, which is really important, is what I call the target authority statement. What is the one-line statement that explicitly defines who you serve and what you help them with? It'll be really, really critical to define this, as we're going to do in depth in a second. And then the last bucket is your X factor. This is kind of like what makes you you. So the first thing is your story, your background, your proof, and your unique lane. All that kind of bundles into one thing. What is your personal story or experience within this niche? What skills or perspectives do you have that make you different from everyone else in the category? It's really helpful to define this up front because you can use it in your content. The last piece, which we're not going to actually make right now, we'll make in the editing section, but it's worth mentioning, is your signature visual style. What is the look, the set, the shots, and the branding that best represent how you show up in videos so you can kind of craft your own visual branding? We'll do that in the editing, like I said, but that's a big piece of your X factor. So these really are the 10 elements that make up your USP. Now we're going to go through each of these in detail. I'm going to show you the examples of what they are for my channel so that you can get a tactical example at it. And then you're going to define these as well. Now, this is really important. The goal of this exercise, this positioning piece, is to help you get extreme clarity on exactly who the ideal viewer is, what they're struggling with most, and we use that so that we make sure our content is most valuable for them. Really critical that you do this. I can't overstate that enough. All right, let's start with your message, the first bucket. So the first thing in message is your offer. The reason business owners fail to convert views into sales is because they do not map their positioning on social media to the offer that they sell. If you have an offer, which I hope most of you do, you want to start here. What is that offer? Who is it for? And what does it help them with? If you don't have an offer, skip this section for now, but as a pro tip, it's much easier to do this work if you have an offer. For example, right now, I have 3 core offers for Callaway Marketing that are all derivatives of each other. They serve the same avatar. So I've got Sandcastles.ai, which is a workflow and data tool designed to help business owners automate their short form workflow. I've got Shortform Academy, this program, which is a private membership to help business owners build a short form content machine. And then I've got workshops, which are going to be one-off, for sale, individual bites from this program, single session paid workshops aimed to help business owners improve a specific piece of the short form workflow. All 3 of those are basically versions of the same thing for the same customer. But notice how these offers are for a super specific avatar, business owners, and they help with a super specific problem, short form video production. Knowing this helps me dial in the rest of the exercise around my content strategy. So if you have an offer, write that down right now on your doc. And we'll have a point where we break for homework. We'll kind of revisit this if you want to watch first, but just know we're going to have you write all these down as you go. All right, the second piece here is niche. Think of niche like the category that you play in. So for example, it could be like accounting for small businesses, or advanced mechanics for helicopter pilots, or paid ads for agency owners, or baking for Midwestern mothers. It's kind of like a 2 to 4 word categorization of the category you play in. It's much easier to win when you have a defined niche because that acts like the rails that you then pick topics from. For example, my niche on Instagram is social media growth. If I went one level down, it would be social media growth for business owners. If I wanted to go even another level down, it might be social media growth for info coaching business owners potentially. Or for someone else, like in another potential parallel universe, it would be social media growth for local restaurants in Washington, D.C. You want to get granular on the niche. This may sound counterintuitive, but if you're trying to build a business that monetizes from owned products and services, the more niche down you go, the better. And the reason why is because when you're niche down for local restaurants in Washington, D.C., every content example you use should be for the restaurant so that the restaurant owner can see your content and relate to it immediately. If you're not niche down to a restaurant, but your offer is for restaurants, then only certain videos you make will be relevant for your buyer, and those people will only come down the funnel on certain videos. So you really want to define your niche at the granularity that your offer lives. Now, if you go super niche, note that the viewers and followers are going to grow slower because there's just less people to expose your videos to, but the sales will go up. So it's really critical you define your niche and keep it at the right granularity based on your offer. Now, here's a super common question that I get around niche. Let's just go down this rabbit hole really quick and we'll come back to the last 2 points of your message. If you don't have an offer, how do you figure out your niche? This is a really critical misstep, so let me explain how to do this. At the foundational level, the way to maximize income from social media is to have the purest possible alignment between niche and offer. So content, audience, product fit, content, audience, offer fit. That's what you want. Ideally, you want to solve one problem for one type of person in one way. Because of this, your offer, if you have one, is super helpful to guide your niche positioning because you have the offer here, you can back into who the buyer already is and then what content to make. So if you do or don't have an offer, you're going to fall into one of 4 categories, one of 4 personas around this. The process to build your social media strategy is going to differ for each of these paths, right? So path A, you've never attempted social media seriously and you don't have an offer. Path B, you've never attempted social media seriously, but you do have a dialed offer. Path C, you're executing social media fairly well already, but you don't have a dialed offer. And then D is kind of the best spot. You're executing fairly well and you do have an offer, right? These are the 4 scenarios you might find yourself in. So the first piece is you need to get clarity on the niche. The easiest way to do this, as I've already said, is to start backwards from the offer. So for people that are in groups B and D, this will be really easy for you because B and D already have a dialed offer. If you already have a dialed offer, you know your niche. Your goal is to make videos for the buyer avatar that's already buying your offer, targeting the pain points that would help you solve it. So if that's you, makes it way easier. Now, I'm going on this tangent for the people in A and C. If you're in group C, meaning you don't have an offer yet, but you're already doing pretty well on social media, you've likely probably decided what your niche is going to be. That's why you're doing well on social media already. And in this case, awesome. If you want to build a non-media business from your channel, I would try to validate your audience value as soon as possible by building some offer that you can test with them. Your offer needs to align with their pain points or you're going to struggle to sell. So if you're in C, maybe you have 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 followers on social media, you're already doing pretty well, but you've never sold an offer. The first thing to do is build an offer that you think that audience would want and try to sell it via content funnel as we're talking about here. If you're able to sell it, perfect. You already have the niche, you already have the offer, you're good to go. You then fall into camp D. If you can't sell it, well then you may have a misalignment problem, which I'll talk about in a second. Misalignment problem is the most frustrating thing because you spent all that time building an audience only to realize you can't sell them anything. So I'll come back to that in a second. If you're in group A, you don't have an offer and you've never done social media before, I recommend picking a niche where you have existing credibility and proof. Credibility and proof leads to trust, and trust leads to sales. It's way easier to sprint to an offer than it is to sprint to proof. So whatever you think you have experience in already and you have results in, pick that as your niche. If you're just starting out and you don't have any skills or proof and you're in this because you're trying to grow from scratch, pick the niche you're most interested in and just accept that it's going to take you 1 to 2 years making videos before you can have proof and an offer so that you can kind of sell that offer via the proof. It's just really hard if you're starting from scratch on both. So this is kind of my framework for how you come up with the niche, regardless of if you have an offer or not. These are the 4 scenarios. So hopefully you can self-select into that and then back into what the niche is. If you still have any questions, just bring it up on the next community call. All right, let's get back to the 4 pieces of your message, right? So we've already talked about first, your offer, second, your niche, and now we're going to the interest topics. This is a very critical part of content, the interest topics. It's what fuels your ideas. Think of interest topics like the buckets or categories of topics within your niche that you might share a perspective on. For example, if you're in the social media growth space, these could be things like editing or storytelling or ideation, right? Kind of like buckets of topics. In the baking niche, these could be things like recipes or secret ingredients or baking equipment or famous restaurants. The best way to come up with interest topics is to think about the end-to-end process that your target IVA needs to go through to complete their desired outcome. If you are a local baker and you're teaching other bakers how to bake, other bakers are your IVA, what steps, for example, would a baker need to go through to make their first set of chocolate chip muffins? Every single step in that workflow could be one to many interest topics that you could make in your videos. Don't worry about writing all these interest topics down right now. I'm just giving you an exercise to start thinking through workflow and process terms that might reveal what these interest topics could be. They're just like sub buckets within your niche. If you're struggling to come up with interest topics from scratch, the best exercise is just to look at the best performing videos from your competitors, which we're going to do a little bit later in this module, and those will reveal the interest topics pretty quick. It's whatever the subjects are of those videos that they're talking about. For example, my Callaway Marketing channel, which is about short form social media growth, this is a short list of some of the relevant topics that might be interest topics. There are many, many more than this, but just to give you a sense. Content strategy, channel positioning, ideation, idea research, hooks, script writing. Like I could make a bunch of videos about hooks. Those would all fall in the hooks interest topic. You could even go one level deeper, right? So it could be like visual hooks. That could be another interest topic. So there's really infinite topics. The point is these are all within the niche of social media short form growth. These are called level 1 topics. And like I said, you could break these out further. So that's the third piece is once you have your niche, you want to break it into topics which help inform your ideas. The last piece in message, the what you talk about, is core message and beliefs. So what fundamental messages or beliefs do you hold that will be helpful to infuse in your content and position you differently from everyone else? For example, for me, I believe that content performance can be engineered using data and psychology. I believe content is more science than art, and that if you use the Lego bricks, you can get to your outcomes a lot faster. This is kind of like a contrarian insight or a non-obvious take that I have that I would be able to infuse into all of my content. I also believe ideas and formats are 100 times more important than everything else, and the reason why people fail is because their ideas and formats are bad. That's like a second example. So it's just helpful for you to get a sense of what your core beliefs are, especially contrarian, non-obvious insights in your niche or offer category that you can then use later in your content. All right, we'll come back to this in terms of the tactile exercise at the end for the homework, but that is the first bucket around messaging. Now let's go to the second bucket for your avatar. Okay, so E, or like the 5th of 10, is ideal viewer avatar. Think of this like the single avatar or archetype that makes up your ideal viewer. This is going to be your target buyer and customer for whatever offer you have at the bottom of the funnel that you've already just defined. Now, why is your IVA important? It's important because when you make content designed to establish trust and authority, you're going to have to give that IVA valuable information so that they can solve their pain points. The more you do this, the quicker they trust you and the faster they buy. If you don't actually know who your IVA is, well then it's really hard to define what the pain points are they're struggling with, and your content's not going to be valuable to them. So we really have to define this IVA. So how do we do that? The best process is to go out and find actual people that fit their description. Now this could be previous customers that have already purchased from you. It could be a theoretical person. You want to study what these people interact with, specifically their psychographics, which are their psychological characteristics. And if you don't know what psychographics are, just go to Claude or ChatGPT and ask for a list of psychographics. What do they like and dislike? What do they comment on? Where do they spend their time? What do they struggle with most? You want to go down the rabbit hole and really study their behaviors because this will help you understand who they are. Now, if you already sell an offer and you have customers, you should know a lot about this already. If you don't, you can do something that I call the chair test. So if you're struggling to find a real life example of someone that embodies your IVA, imagine you could Frankenstein the perfect person and sit them in a chair in front of you as your captive audience. Who would that person be? What would they act like? What would make them tick? What are their behaviors? If you can visualize that person, you want to write that down. You should be able to come up with a bulleted list across their likes, dislikes, demographics, tendencies, pain points, brand affinities, buying decisions, really like a 360 view of what this person is and how they operate. This will be super helpful in informing the way you write your content. For example, as a teaser, for my Callaway marketing channel, this is a shortened version of the ideal viewer avatar profile that I'm going for. Let's just call them Tom and Tamara, the business owners struggling with content. So the IVA I'm going for is a business owner that's struggling with social media. They typically have a back-end offer or some product or service that they've had modest success selling, but they're completely under-leveraging organic short-form video content. They know they should be doing content. They know it's a cheat code, but they just don't know how to get started. It just feels really daunting to them. They've watched a lot of tutorials and help videos in the past, but none of those videos break down things in a way that makes sense to their brain. They might have even tried to hire a content creator in-house or worked with a coach and brute forced a few videos, but they just didn't have success and they gave up. All they need is a system, a couple frameworks, and a clear set of instructions so that they can apply that system to make this actually work. They clearly understand the value of a personal brand. They know that content is the best way to build them one for future-proofing their business. Money is not their constraint. They have the resources to invest in speedrunning, but they want to feel confident that the program and tools they invest in are actually going to get them where they want to go. Now, if that sounds familiar, like if that sounds like you as I read it, you were nodding along, that's because you are in my IVA. That's why you bought the program. And I specifically designed my videos and this program and my funnel to appeal to you specifically. The reason you're nodding is because I studied what type of person you'd be and built this world for you. This stuff really works, I'm telling you. So you really want to take the time to do this exercise. Don't just go to ChatGPT and ask it to give you this write-up. That's not actually helping you think critically through this. From here, after you do this chair test, you could then build a bunch more specifics around demographics, psychographics, and all of that. This is a very helpful exercise if you don't know who the buyer should be. If you already know, you probably have some of this down or you have a clear picture, so you don't have to spend too much time. But if you don't know, you really got to define this clearly. The more important part is this. When you make videos, you want to have your IVA profile in the back of your mind and use this filter every single time. Would this video actually be valuable or useful for my IVA? If the answer is no, you don't make the video because you're not going to get on target views. I ask this question to myself every single time I make a video and it really works. Like I said, don't just use ChatGPT to do this write-up. You're outsourcing the thinking, and the thinking is what's going to drive non-obvious insights and better ideas. So really take the time, 30, 60 minutes to define this for you, right? So that's the second piece of this avatar section. The third piece is what I call the dream outcome. And this is just an extension of the IVA. What is the dream outcome the ideal viewer is trying to achieve related to your niche? For me, Callaway Marketing, I want business owners that are trying to build a content machine that nets them a cult-like personal brand and drives leads and sales to their business. That's the dream outcome. That's why you're here. That's what I'm focused on. Now, the last piece, which is kind of like the opposite of the dream outcome, are the pain points for your IVA. What are the specific pain points that your IVA struggles with that's preventing them from getting that outcome? For example, just as like a quick teaser, let's just say script writing was an interest topic within short form video of the niche that I'm going for with my IVA on Callaway Marketing. A few pain points might be you're wondering, how should I write my scripts to maximally increase retention? Or how long should the scripts be? Or how should you frame your hooks to sound confident but not cocky? Or how long should it take you to write your script? Or how can I write my scripts faster? Are there templates I can follow? Or is the workflow custom from scratch every time? Like, these are questions which are really disguised as pain points that are blocking you from succeeding in your dream outcome. So once you start going into this and defining those pain points, content ideas start flowing immediately for you. Now, this is what your workflow should be. Anytime you come across a viable pain point, especially if your IVA tells you it somewhere or leaves a comment, you want to add it to this pain point list and score it with respect to degree of pain. The most painful ones are going to drive the most views if you can package them correctly in your videos. IVAs will typically reveal their pain points in two places: comments and DMs and emails directly to you. Now, you don't need to go crazy writing down hundreds of pain points right now. I don't want you to procrastinate, but just start to shift your mind to think in terms of pain points and build a database of them so that you can inform your content ideas, right? Now, the last piece in this avatar section where it all kind of comes together is what I call the target authority statement. This is the one-liner that helps define who you help in what way to achieve what outcome. So this is the framework I like. I help X people with Y skill or topic to accomplish Z outcome. So for me, it's I help business owners grow faster on social media to drive more free leads to their business. The best way to define a niche is to use this target authority statement. And these are kind of three formats that you can write it in. The one I said is kind of my favorite. So for example, on my Callaway Marketing channel, these would be the three variations. I help business owners with video content on social media. I help business owners make better short form video to grow their business faster, or social media content for business owners, right? You could frame it any of these ways. The goal is to be as specific here as you can and really have clarity on who the IVA is and what the dream outcome is. Once you know these things, you can frame your target authority statement. And I'm telling you, this becomes a really helpful filter every time you go to make a video. All right, so that closes the second bucket around avatar. We've covered messaging and avatar. Now let's go through the third one, which is your X factor. So your X factor is made up of two things. The first one is your story, background, proof, and unique advantage. So I like to think of this as what is your personal experience or story with how you achieve the outcome for your IVA? What is your unique perspective that is contrarian? Not all content requires personal storytelling, but it's extremely powerful to have this at the ready when you do want to use it. The unique advantage you're looking for answers this question: what skills or experience do I have that can help me make my videos so they're different or better than any alternative in the category? This is like the unique advantage part. I think of this as your secret sauce. It's some experience or credibility you have, some former job, some visual taste that nobody has, something different that separates you from the category. And if you're sitting there watching this thinking, well, I'm 18, I haven't really done anything yet, so I don't have a unique advantage. Well, your advantage could be the fact that you're 18, the fact that you're young and a beginner approaching this topic with a fresh frame. That is something others can't say. So to give you a tactical example, on my channels, I have a few unique advantages, right? So one is proof. I've grown super fast on social media and YouTube already, so I can reference those examples. Not everybody has the proof of going from 0 to 300K subs in 15 months or going 1 million followers on short form, right? So I can use that uniquely. Two would be unique past experiences. I used to be a rapper, and so I can articulate my speech better than most people. That's something I can lean into. Third is I kind of have a weird brain. Because of the rapper thing, I think in metaphors. So I always lean super heavy into weird metaphors that are easy to understand. That's why my content absorption rate is so high, because I can make it easy for you to hear. So that's kind of like a third thing. And then the fourth thing is I'm really good at explaining complex topics in simple terms. It's like my best skill, I would say. And so that's another advantage that I have over most people. And because I know these things, I'm able to lean into them and use them to be unique in the space and grow faster. So you always want to document whatever you think these things are, or just have it in the front of your mind, right? Other examples of what a unique advantage could be, maybe you're a doctor teaching fitness. Like there's a lot of fitness gurus that are personal trainers, but not a lot of doctors, right? So you could be unique because of that. Or you're an American living in the Himalayas. Nobody else in the Himalayas in your village is American, so you can lean into that. Or you have 30 years of proof doing something and everyone else in the space is young. Or you have some weird experience growing up that nobody else has had. Is there something that makes you a unicorn in your category compared to everyone else? You don't have to have a unique advantage, but if you do, leaning into it will make you stick in someone's head way faster. So it's helpful to document this right now. Now, when it comes to your story, it is helpful to document the story. Writing these things down bring the memories to the top of your mind so that you can reference them easier when you're writing scripts. Here's an example of my story. I'm not going to read it just to save you time, but like I've written down my story and proof so that I can access it there. So that's the first piece really of the X factor. The second piece is what I call your signature visual style. When you watch a video and you're like, I just love that video. Like I recognize that person's videos from a mile away. That's what you're referencing is their visual signature style. And so what a visual signature style is, or a signature visual style, is your combination of your look, which is your appearance and clothes, plus your set, which is visual backgrounds that you're using, could be digital or real world, plus your shots, could be camera angles or perspectives, plus your branding, the colors and fonts. Those 4 things together make up your signature visual style. Now, we're going to go over some options for how to build these uniquely in the recording and editing section. And also, if you hire the editors that I recommend, they take you through a 1-week sprint process at the beginning to help you build this. Like, they'll build this out for you, go through a huge intake process. It's actually pretty cool. So if you want to work with them, we've got links all over the place. But if you're not, you could watch this video that I made starting at 8 minutes and 17 seconds. I also do a visual breakdown of a bunch of styles so you can understand this better too. For example, if I break down my signature visual style, my look, I always wear this black hat and a black hoodie. You know, I like the way this hat fits, but like in every video, I'm wearing this hat. The lighting is warm on my face, so it comes off this like golden glow. I'm kind of fairly serious in the way I come across, but sometimes I joke. So that's like my look and appearance, I would say. My set, I'm always in the same set. I've got black walls, I have bloomy highlights, I've got gold and blue lights, I have like random techie studio objects around me. I'm kind of going for this like dark Bruce Wayne vibe. That's like my set. Now my shots are always straight on 35 mil at the eye level. That's what I like. I don't switch it around. But if I did switch it, that would create a new visual signature style that I can tap into. And then my branding, I usually use black and white. I use small captions with gold or red accents. Like, this is a perfect encapsulation of what my signature visual style looks like. So when you see this, you can immediately be like, oh, that's a Callaway video. And so I've built that visual signature style over time. Now, you're not going to build that on day one, so I don't want you to worry about having or not having this. But if you do have perspectives, write them down. If you do see some videos from other people and you want to emulate their visual style, write those down. And it'll be really helpful later when you go to craft this. Now, together, all 10 of the things I just went through across those 3 buckets combine to build your unique signature positioning. And this is really critical to take the time to map this out, because this is what's going to make you one of one and really own your lane. From here, we're going to go through homework number 1, which is really solidifying what we just talked about. Before moving on in the curriculum, I want you to take 10 to 15 minutes and I want you to write down your answers for these 10 things on a bulleted list so that you have them accessible. Just open a Google Doc that becomes your master doc for everything. Make a tab, unique signature positioning, and write these 10 things down. You might tweak this over time as you go through the next couple lessons and you think about things. After you talk to me in the one-on-one call, you might kind of refine these things, but it's really critical you use these as a North Star so that you can be disciplined with your audience matching and your idea selection. For the signature visual style, you don't need to decide that now. Like I said, the 10th piece, you don't need to have that, but maybe curate 3 to 5 other videos from creators that you scroll and you like. That will help guide you as much as you want. So here are the 10 things as a recap. Your message, you've got offer, niche, interest topics, and core beliefs. So answer these questions. Then you've got your avatar. So you got your ideal viewer avatar, their dream outcome, the pain points, and then target authority statement. And then your X factor, you've got your story, background, proof, and unique lane, and then any references for signature visual style that you want. Just put those on a Google Doc, and then we'll have an area in the One Factor for homework where you can go in and tag this as homework number 1, and you can post it if you want. You don't have to. We're not going to make this be a checkpoint that we have to review for you to move forward. You can go move forward to the next video, but it's a helpful way where you can share it and all the peers that you have in the space can maybe share and collaborate if you're in similar niches. So feel free to post that if you want or not, but having this either way is going to be super helpful. All right, next we're going to go to analyzing your niche and building a competitor funnel. This is a really critical tactical step in Sandcastles that will help you set up everything else. So let's go into that video right now.